I've found over the years that there's been lots of ways in which the Lord has led me. Sometimes it's been through something in the Bible, sometimes it's been through something that's been written in a book, sometimes it's been through a person, and sometimes it's been through other ways, a picture maybe, or even sometimes it's just that deep sort of sense inside you that the Lord is wanting to do something. And over the years that I was working, many times I asked the Lord if I could do other things and give up my job. And always I got the same answer: no, your job is to be where you are, to be God in that place, and to provide money for others to go. And it wasn't until I actually retired that the Lord released me from that. And when he did, it happened very quickly, actually. I took early retirement, a year early, and I just said to God, what do you want me to do? And just before I retired, I got a letter through the post from an organisation that I was not aware of, so I have no idea how they got my address, saying that the Mercy Ship Anastasis was in London, and they were having an open evening and an invitation to go. And that was one of the things where I just knew deep down I'd got to go. And I went down, and they did a presentation. And halfway through the presentation, the speaker says, "Oh, by the way, we've just lost our pharmacist. I am a qualified pharmacist." And I thought, oh. And my reaction was that, I've never felt called to Africa, and I don't like heat. And I think the answer was, so what? And anyway, I went and had a chat with them and got all the paperwork and everything, came back. Went into work the next morning, walked down the corridor in the pharmacy to be greeted by one of the part-time pharmacists who had also been at that presentation. And her comment to me was, "You are going, aren't you, Kate?" And that was the beginning of about 6 years when I went at different times to Africa. Absolutely loved the time there. I wouldn't have missed it for anything. It wasn't easy at times. The culture was very different and so on. But the other thing that I've learned is that God will bring you to an end of a time, and you need to be able to recognise that. And certainly with the work that I did with Mercy Ships, the last time I went out, I knew it was going to be the last time. They were actually retiring the Anastasis anyway, and that was what... But it was important that I was there because there was a number of people who on the team who were actually quite hurt, and I was in a position to be able to have a quiet place where I could talk with them. And that came to an end. And then shortly after that, I felt the Lord was telling me to move on from the church where I was. Now, I'd been at that church for, I think, 25 years. But it was very clear. There was a new church starting up in the town, and I felt that it was right to join them, and I did. They later on bought an old building, and I became very much involved with that work, and also with administration work there. But again, it came to a point where the Lord said, "It's enough. I want you to do something else." And he led me into working with Azalea, which is an organisation in Luton that works with the street women. And it was fairly well in its early stages at that point. And I spent 5 years until I came up here working with them loved the time that I was there, got to know many of the women really well. And you just, they are just people. And you don't always understand why they've been led into those sort of things. Often it's just circumstances. And then when I came to move up here, I always knew that I was going to move back to Norfolk. And then at the beginning of the year, about 6 years ago now, God said to me I'd got to sell the flat that I'd got down here, which then meant that I hadn't got anywhere to come to. I don't like this idea, but okay, God, I'll push the door and I'll do it. And sometimes you just do have to push the door. And I sold the flat. I then continued to look for a property up here and eventually found a property that I really, really liked. And I felt, the moment I walked in the door, I thought, this is the right one. Went back to Luton, put my house on the market, and 2 days later I'd sold it. Don't think I was very popular with the estate agent, because I sold it for the asking price, and I did have 1 or 2 offers above the asking price, but I wanted a family to have it. And there was a Polish family with a little boy who really wanted it, and I felt that that was the right thing to do. And then having done that everything just went through right. But there are times when you push a door and God closes it. And that's happened to me a few times. When my parents were alive, I did try to move back to Norfolk to be nearer them. And each time God closed the door. And you have to be prepared for that. If you push the door and he opens it, fine. If you push the door and he closes it, that's it. So that's my story. And as I say, all the way along, I've been aware of God's leading in it, particularly when I was going, first time I went out to Africa, because every time I wavered, God seemed to just intervene with something or other and say, no, you're going. And that was the way it was.